Ryan Gravenberch made sure that Liverpool and Arne Slot took all the points in the Merseyside derby against Everton. But that does not mean Jack Grealish was not there to try and get something out of that game. And they almost did. And we're going to look at exactly how Arne Slot and his team approached this team and how David Moyes almost hurt Liverpool. So let's start with how the positioning of Gravenberch is changing Liverpool. So if you look at this, you see that he's now like ahead of Alexis McAllister in build-up of Liverpool because, as we know, as we've seen, Gravenberch is so good at carrying the ball and receiving the ball in those pockets and then progressing the ball forward. But also this means if Liverpool loses the ball further up the pitch, he's there to kind of outmuscle the Everton defenders and then they can, start the attack again. And you will see that in most cases, you will find Ryan Gravenberch in positions like this ahead of Alexis McAllister was behind him. The other thing to look at is the positioning of the Liverpool fullbacks, Kekes and Connor Bradley. When Trent Alexander-Arnold left Liverpool, a lot of Liverpool's fans were thinking, oh, who's going to do that inverting? Turns out Bradley is doing it. And even Frimpong has been doing it for Liverpool in the previous games. And as you will see, this is such a key thing for Liverpool. You will even see Kekes being in position like this, right at the center, and he actually does receive the ball, and he turns and he goes forward. So for the sequence of the goal, you'll see that you have Bradley starting that run from outside to in, and a few seconds later, you see that he has now created space by making a run outside to in, and once he gets the attention of the defender, then he makes a run inside to out, and that creates that gaping hole in the Everton defense, which then Ryan Gravenberch, who makes those forward runs, can now run into that space and then exploit it. And you can see in the second goal as well, Liverpool wins the ball and then the ball is played to Gravenberch and he just plays Ekitike in, and then Liverpool go ahead and they lead the game by 2-0. If you're enjoying this video, please do make sure to subscribe. Let's move on to the next thing, which is how Liverpool were preventing Everton from playing in the first half. They were hyper aggressive in their press, and what Everton ended up doing, they just ended up going forward. And this might make you think, oh, since Everton were just going forward, they had no threat. That's where you'd be wrong. Because down the side of Jack Grealish, where Connor Bradley was, there was this thing of Aston Villa, Jack Grealish that we're experiencing, where he's free to express himself. He's no longer that Jack Grealish under Pep who does most of the choreographed things like make a pass, and then once you're isolated with the defender, do some magic. But now he's just taking on players, and the very first shot that came from Everton was from the side of Jack Grealish taking the ball on and ended up passing it to Drewsbury Hall for a near chance. And what you will see is that on that side, with Jack Grealish being in danger, you will see then Connor Bradley stepping up to kind of stop Grealish from doing any damage, but then that would leave that huge gap behind the Liverpool defense, especially between Konate and Connor Bradley. Sometimes you'll see that Gravenberch will then try and slot in that gap, but that would still mean there's still area where Everton could play the ball. And as you can see in this clip, what ended up happening is Dominic Szoboszlai ended up helping Bradley in pressing Jack Grealish. But for the goal, what did not happen is that Szoboszlai was not close enough, because what is happening in the clip, if we just go back to this, you see that Bradley is making sure that if Grealish tries to go down the line, he's there. And Szoboszlai is making sure that if he tries to cut in, he's there. But for the goal, if you look here, you see now that, okay, Grealish can take the ball down the line because there's that whole space. But he can also cut in because, well, Szoboszlai is not there. And what ends up happening is that he takes the ball down that line, and then what he ends up doing, he crosses the ball. But the second thing that happens is you see that Ryan Gravenberch is in that position, and he is tracking Idrissa Kanake. But if you fast forward to the box, he's walking, mate. Mate is walking, and Kanake is shooting. McAllister has to be the one who's pressing. So as much as Gravenberch had a very good game, this part defensively actually was lacking well for this one goal, and it kind of not kind of, it changed the match because we've seen Liverpool give away 2-0 leads like what, 3 times this season, against Bournemouth, against Atleti, and against Newcastle. So possibilities were opened, which means players should take all these moments seriously. Which then brings us to the very next thing. Since Liverpool were now under that pressure, you found Liverpool misplacing passes like this. In fact, there is even a stat that I wrote down here. So in the second half, Liverpool misplaced, let me see how many passes here. They misplaced hundreds, and they had 177 accurate passes from 219, which means in the first half they had 218 accurate passes from 247. So not only did they have fewer passes in the second half, but they also misplaced way more passes in the second half, which is just problematic. Then with them misplacing passes, you also see that Kunate could have played the ball. He had 3 options, but he chose the complicated pass and he ended up losing the ball. Everton was so confident in the second half that they were playing from the back. Bro, I know, right? First half, they saw the press from Liverpool. They were like, nope, we're not playing from the back. They kicked it long. Second half, they're coming back. They're prime passer. They're playing from the back. And as you can see, the Liverpool press is no longer like hyper aggressive. But Idrissa Kanake in this clip actually drops, receives the ball. He plays it back to the right center back, which is weird. Why is no one pressing now? They just fell back, and that was problematic. And they were very confident to a point that even the goal itself, if you go back to the goal, it came from this. Alexis McAllister misplaces this pass. From this misplaced pass, the ball is won, and they play through Liverpool because the ball is played to the striker. And then from there, what happens? There's a combination play, and then the ball is down to Grealish, and then Everton end up scoring that goal. So the changes, I don't want to talk about much about the changes because they did not do much, except that when Curtis Jones did come on to this game, coming on for Alexis McAllister, he was just coming in to kind of stabilize, because Curtis Jones might not do much in a game, but what he does very well is help the team keep the ball. So that's all they were trying to do, slow down the game. And it did help because the game ended up being 2-1 and Liverpool did not lose. That's not to mean that Liverpool did not create more chances to score more goals, but they had a good game up until they allowed that goal to go in. So going forward, Liverpool still need to address that problem at the back. But what did you guys make of the game? Do let me know down on the comment section below, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you. Bye-bye.